5 years ago, on its initial release, the AMG Project One was heralded by AMG as the ultimate hypercar, something to go up against the likes of the Aston Martin Valkyrie, McLaren Speedtail, and Gordon Murray T50. It was also headlined as a street-legal F1 car, but as you probably know by now, the car was a colossal mess-up by Mercedes, and orders are being cancelled by the dozen. Partly because the car didn't perform as well as expected, and partly because it won't even be street-legal for some customers. So let's get into why this car has become such a huge disappointment, and why the Mercedes CEO himself has said that he's sure they were drunk when they agreed to build the Project One.
No, Mikey, that was so not right.
So, what was the Project One supposed to be? Well, when the concept for it was released in 2017, it was said to make 1,000 horsepower from a street homologated version of Lewis Hamilton's Formula One engine, a 1600cc V6 paired with 2 electric motors, and these 2 electric motors would make up 300 of the horsepowers. It would also be all-wheel drive and have a crazy Formula One driving position in which you're practically lying down in the car. And despite having 4-wheel drive, it would weigh just 2,645 pounds, around 1,200 kilos for my UK viewers. This would have been a formula unlike any car that would propel this vehicle right to the top of the world's fastest track hypercars. But much like Mercedes' performance in F1 this year, it's ended up as something more than just a little underwhelming. The Project One weighs, get this, 3,737 pounds. That's 1,695 kilos and yep, around half a ton heavier than originally expected. That's over 13,000 Hot Wheel cars. That's as much as an entire aerial atom. That's like having 2 full-sized grizzly bears driving around in the thing. I haven't seen such a scatterbrained, imprudent mess up on a hypercar in years. Well, maybe there's a few exceptions, but not from a big manufacturer. This is Mercedes we're talking about. 7 consecutive World Championship winning, Nürburgring lap record breaking Mercedes. And so, how did a car from the people that literally invented the concept of the automobile, how does it end up weighing so much? Well, first of all, remember when I said this thing had 2 electric motors? Yeah, that's what it was meant to have. It's got 4. 4 extremely heavy bits of moving machinery that are distributed to each corner of the car. Additionally, you've got that all-wheel drive system connected up to those 4 motors and the engine. That gives this car one of the most complicated drivetrains in a car I've ever heard of. You've got a turbocharged 1.6 litre V6 from an F1 car, that's already sort of enough. Then you've got 4 electric motors, and then a 4-wheel drive system. It's heavy, clunky, probably a bit overcomplicated, and let me tell you this, I don't think there's a Mercedes mechanic in the world that will actually want to work on this thing. May I also add that the electric drivetrain makes up more of this car's power than anticipated. No longer is it 300 horsepower, but now a smidge under 500 horsepower. And that means that this crazy state-of-the-art F1 engine only produces 574 horsepower. A serious letdown in my opinion. The battery pack is of course a heavy part of electric cars too, and to be honest, I reckon that Mercedes weren't able to get the desired power out of the 1.6 litre V6 reliably, and so they had to beef up the electric drivetrain, leading to a car that is almost 50% electric, 50% petrol. And that brings us to the final nail in the Project One's coffin. This car won't be homologated in the US as a street legal vehicle. Remember, most consumers put their orders in 5 years ago in 2017, with many buying AMG GT Black Series and putting them in a unique Project One livery to match their upcoming Project Ones, much like Manny Khoshbin did. So, understandably, many of the buyers have cancelled their orders and now have a $500,000 constant reminder in their garage of the car they waited 5 years for, but were never able to actually buy. The Project One won't be compliant on US roads due to the exhaust emissions, which does seem a tad strange, as it's a 1.6 litre hybrid, living in the same world as the 1,000 horsepower Aston Martin Valkyrie. That car has a naturally aspirated V12, and yes, somehow the engine with a peak of 11,000 RPM will probably be homologated for use on US roads. But before all of you that have orders for this car in the US lose hope, I'm sure all of them are watching, I'm sure they have nothing better to do, of course. There is still the potential that it could get passed as a show and display vehicle that can't exceed 2,500 miles a year. And I guess none of this really matters when you think about it. The fact it's as fast as a car a fifth of its price, the fact that the F1 engine is less powerful than an E63's engine, or the fact that you can't drive it, because most of these will be bought by people that won't even give this beast a chance to breathe as they tuck them away deep inside their multi-million-dollar collections collecting dust. Ready for the next guy to get excited to buy a Project One in 30 years with 0 miles so he can keep it in his own collection. And in the same vein as the Mercedes CEO, you'd have to be drunk to to do that. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already for more hypercar content, and thank you so much for watching this video. I really do appreciate it, and let me know down below, do you think that people will actually care that much who buy these cars, because so many people don't end up driving these cars? Will it even matter that it's not even street legal in the US? I do know that there are a few people out there that will use hypercars, and I'm sure they are very, very annoyed. I know Manny Khoshbin is going to be annoyed, but yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. Fingers crossed it can at least get that show and display, and people can drive them 2,500 miles, because I doubt anyone does more than 2,500 miles in a Project One. Anyway, that's enough from me today. Thank you so much for watching. Enjoy the rest of your day, guys. I'll see you in the next one. Take care.